I want to thank, I have to start every year by thanking my family, my wife in particular, who puts up with a lot of, I'll be home by this time, and she already has a husband calculator as to what that actually means. When I say I'll be home by 6, she knows pretty much that's, and apparently there's a difference between twilight and dusk, so that's an argument we had this year. But without her support, obviously putting up with me as a coach, but also putting up with me as a coworker, a husband, and a co-parent of 2 of the team members this year. I know that that was a strain on her quite a bit, so if you could give her a round of applause. This year, my family thank yous extend to teammates of the kids this year, Rhett and Wyatt, and I'll talk a little more about them when I get to them, but just as a general thank you, it is difficult for them, I'm sure, to be around their classmates and their teammates who probably want, I mean, they have good reason to say something poor about me, but they have to hold their tongue when my children are standing there. But I know that it can be an added stress for them, so I want to thank them for their tolerance of having me as their father and their coach. I also need to thank Coach Smith and more importantly, his family, but I'll get to Coach Smith in a moment, because they have allowed me to be a member as much of their family at times, and I know that they put up with the same headaches that my wife puts up with, both on the husband and the father front. Want to thank the athletic department. Want to thank Ms. Butler, Mr. Henner, for making a lot of the arrangements for us, giving us flexibility, and kind of a rubber stamp too, because after 20 some odd years of working with them, especially Ms. Butler, she puts a lot of trust in us, and so she allows us some flexibility when it comes to spending and trust that way. So if you get a chance and you see Ms. Butler and Mr. Henner, be sure to thank them. As far as Coach Smith goes, you know, I say this every year, and I don't think it wears thin in repeating. You know, 30 years ago when 33 years ago when we moved to this community, that was the first year I believe that Coach Smith lived in this community, and we actually started at the high school the same year. He was a teacher, I was a freshman. You go from having him as a coach, to having him as a mentor, to having him as a very good friend. And that's pretty special for me, so if you give him a round of applause. Obviously, the 2 new faces on the coaching staff this year, we are very, very lucky to have such positive individuals. Their youth is a welcome breath of fresh air because they give us different insight. Coach Benson and Coach Gabriel, new to the program this year, but through the athletic department advocating for a team our size, needing an extra set of eyes, both for kids to be able to have a touch point with, but also an extra set of eyes out on the roads. You know, cross country is not bound by a painted field or some sort of floor that you have to stay within the confines of. We can wander quite a distance, no pun intended. And so to have both Coach Benson and Coach Gabriel at meets and at practice, it has been a large weight lifted off of our shoulders when it comes to administering the things that kids need. So if you could give those folks a round of applause. I also want to congratulate the girls team this year. It was an exciting year to watch the girls develop both in some of their senior leadership, but also in some of the underclassmen developing as leaders on the team, and getting to know some kids outside of the classroom that maybe I had in the class, and sometimes in 2 classes. in a day, but to get to see them in a different light. The girls are always a great compliment to the guys, because when the guys start to really act like general yahoos, the girls can roll their eyes and I don't have to. So that's always nice. I will say, and I said this from the beginning of the year, even coming back from the camping trip, this was the first year that I felt like the guys team and the girls team genuinely enjoyed each other's company to the point where they actually interacted. And that was, I think, in large part because the girls were so relaxed when it came to putting up with some of the guys that, they enjoyed having to roll their eyes at times. And the guys did a really nice job of kind of, coming over and including the girls in a lot of different things. The spike ball that I saw, and some of the other, the volleyball at the camping trip was great. We don't get a lot of that interaction, and I think that was pretty special. I want to congratulate the two girls that qualified for state. That was exciting, both to have someone re-qualify, to have that target on her back, and Rylan really stepped up to the plate at a very difficult sectional, and to have T just kind of say, you know what, I'm getting after it, and if the rest of them want to come after me, they can come after me, and she held on with amazing grit. So congratulations to those two girls. I understand they represented our community and our teams with great class and performance up at the state meet this last weekend. So a round of applause for the girls. As far as the guys' season goes, it was difficult coming off of last year and being able to truly predict how things were going to go. We lost a few juniors that, while I didn't feel like they were going to contribute to the team, they offered some experience in other ways. I'm catching that door back there. And so we actually had our smallest roster we've had in quite a number of years. A roster that's small with inexperience when it comes to running at the varsity level, you can worry as a varsity level coach, especially when it comes to a Division I conference and a Division I sectional. That being said, I knew we had some talent coming in from the 8th grade. But talent has to persevere through ups and downs, some challenges, and I'll talk about that later. But as a team, I felt like we could contest for the conference title. Once I started seeing some of the workouts, when I saw what fitness some of the guys from last year came in with, my nerves started to ease quite a bit. Because not only did we have talent, but we had commitment. And those two things together is what produces performance. The camping trip was awesome. The weather was awesome. The behaviors were awesome. I think I had to raise my voice once. That was an all-time record after quiet hours. So I was able to come into the school year feeling like, hey, we've got some really positive things that can go well for us. We went down the Milwaukee River. We took 5th overall, which is about where we finished last year, and we were 4th, I think, in Division I team. We came back to our place. We won our home invite, which is always nice. We were able to turn around and go to River Valley, bring home a plaque from there, bring home I'm just glancing over at my notes, a plaque in the Division I small division in Smiley on a really hot and hilly course. And the team just kept getting a little bit better each week. Individuals that came into the season maybe not as peak fitness as they had been coming into the season started gaining confidence. Youth started gaining experience, and the experienced fit runners started to gain momentum. And those three things really carried us into Portage, where the vast majority of our kids ran their lifetime bests. One that being we beat the eventual Division II state champion. I take that back. That was Xavier, they were third in Division 2. We beat them at Portage. We turned around and came back at nightfall, which was at a new location. It was still a blast. The homecoming relay, although it was intricate from here to Sun Prairie West, it was the least stressful relay we've ever had. I mean, I just, I look back on this season and think it flew by. I don't know why that is for me. Usually I'm buried in the details and it feels like it's constantly an uphill battle. Maybe it's because my own children are on the team this year, and that, as those of you with seniors, feel like time just flies by. But it just felt like it could have gone on forever and I would have enjoyed every minute of it. So for us to come out and not even win the conference meet, but utterly dominate, felt like that's just what should have been, because these guys had done the work. 4 first-team all-conference, 2 second-team all-conference, and to turn around and then win the JV race as well. To me, that was what we set out to do as a team, as a collective 2021 runners. And we did that. Sectionals, we knew it was going to be an uphill battle. And unfortunately, being a little bit green, that showed. We finished 4th. I mean, it's nice to have an off day and still be 4th at that sectional. But I know that those that didn't perform the way they wanted to have another chance, and we'll learn from that. So I'll talk about that when I get to individuals. But overall, I did want to mention this. We will be the only Badger East cross-country conference champions ever. We won last year, we won this year, and there will never be a Badger East again. So we move to the Badger Large next year, so I think we'll see if we can get some t-shirts made up. Okay? All right, I'll turn it over to Coach Smith now. Varsity letters, since we run 8 at the conference meet. If your season average falls in that 8 range, then you get a varsity letter. Just to make sure everybody that is new to high school understands the trinkets that come with high school. If this is your first sport ever at DeForest High School, you get the numerals, or the numbers of the year you're supposed to graduate. So, freshman, that's 2026. Now you can make it 1959 if you want, but it's 26, so make sure the numbers are right for you. If you get a varsity letter, and it is your first letter ever, you get literally a letter. Back in the olden days, we had letterman's jackets. They were quite fashionable. Pleather sleeves and tweed on the inside here. You hang your medals from them. I don't know what you're going to do with these. You can put them up on your shelf. Some of them are on the letter jacket. I think my children, it's closet material. I don't know where they put them. If this is your first letter in cross country, you will also get a pen that says CC. That stands for cross country. Okay. So I will call up each kid, ask the guys to stay up front here so we can get a freshman class picture, a sophomore class picture, individual junior picture, and then a senior class picture, okay? All right, we're going to go alphabetical reverse by last name. First young man I'll speak about more later led our team for the first half of the season, ended up also being our first runner across the finish line at the sectional meet. Really an impressive freshman year campaign, his fastest time on grass this year. 98% of the fastest times this year came with Portage, so I'm not going to keep repeating Portage. But his time, it was 16:30, eclipsed, to my knowledge, by 42 seconds, the previous fastest freshman 5K time. And I'll talk more about Lucas here in a little bit, but also receiving the top freshman award. Lucas Tanner, come on up. Just so you guys know, take with the left, shake with the right, okay? And Blake, I guess I never clarified this, so I'm going to go ahead and apologize to your family. But a young man that started the season, I kept hearing about him from Lucas's family, actually, and he was going to be new to the high school this year. I got a chance to speak with his mother at Wanakee quite a bit about what a great fit cross country was with Blake, how much all the guys really enjoyed having Blake. But one of the things that I will remember most about Blake was his competitive fire. I mean, I watched the video, someone took a video of the finish, the straightaway at the finish line of the conference meet. And I remember looking at that Wanakee kid. He was a total jerk. Total jerk. I didn't like the look on his face, and neither did Blake. And he went after it. Unfortunately, for the second time this year, we looked at the final results and he got outbeat by .01 seconds. But, I mean, Blake literally dove across the finish line. It was real impressive. But his fastest time of the year, I'm sorry, I don't have my readers now. Thank you. 1959, broke 20 minutes. Come on up, Blake. If you had asked, I have readers up here, I just didn't have them on. Now I feel old. Not still old. Okay. Here we go. Next young man. You know, if you had asked him a year ago, why would I have told you? Wyatt had a really nice breakout his 8th grade year in cross country, and that continued into track season. So for him to have spent as much time running miles over the summer, I was actually very surprised that he really started focusing as much, I'm not sure if I put it more than his swimming, but as much on running. And I think it helped that he would step outside and run almost every day with his brother if his brother was in town. But Wyatt ran, scored for us in 4 or 5 of the meets in our top 5, ran in our top 7, I think all but one race. But his fastest time also came in footage. Ran a 17:44, and it's tough because he's got some talent, young talent in front of him. And so I think that's going to just continue to light his fire as he continues. Earning his varsity letter, Wyatt Parker. I've known this young man for many years because he played baseball with Wyatt, and to see him running in middle school was a lot of fun. I think he really enjoyed running more than he thought he was going to. I think if you were to ask him right now, he'd probably tell you he's a baseball player that runs. But I think that maybe being around some of these guys too, he could see himself in a running culture for some time, and I hope he continues it. He had quite a bit of setback, had an avulsion fracture, I believe is what it's called, in his elbow over the summer, so he literally was in a cast from here to his wrist all summer long. You can imagine that made running, if it was even possible, very uncomfortable. So I know that Carter was a little put back by the fitness that he came into the season with, but he's such a competitive kid that at times I had to really make sure that he didn't overdo it. And he really, I think, his body adjusted nicely to the mileage, and I hope now that he can have an entire summer to train pretty intensely. I think he's going to be a contributing factor when it comes to scoring for us at the varsity level. He did score enough or be in our top 8 enough 2 or 3 times this season to earn his varsity letter. So I'd like to congratulate Carter Myers. Come on up. I'm sorry, Carter's PR was in 1822. Next young man, I had in class last year. And so when I got to talking to Henry a couple of times in the spring, he said he was going to try track. And as he enjoyed track, he was a high jumper and I think mainly a 400 runner. Is that right, Henry? Yeah. There you go. 400 runner. I think he ran some 200s as well. But just with Henry's natural build, I was really crossing my fingers that he'd give cross-country a chance. And I think that joining, I would say, was kind of out of his comfort zone a little bit, but I think it's something that he does not regret. And I think as I talked to the boys about it at home, he just kept becoming more and more part of the team. And that's another example of these guys that come in as freshmen. They know no one in this 1,000-person school, and they get an opportunity to get to know 20 pretty decent humans before school even starts. And I think that helped Henry, and I know one of the highlights of the team's year was actually at a pasta party when Henry pulled up on his unicycle. But Henry's PR came also at Portage with a 1939. Come on up and get your certificate, Henry Meisenbach. Lucas was not with us the first week. He was camping, I believe, with his family the first week. But Lucas Kubasik joined us that second week or maybe even the third week. And I think it was obvious that Lucas maybe had done a little bit of running, but wasn't quite prepared for the shock and awe that training 25, 35 miles a week was going to be. He adjusted very quickly. And the great thing about Lucas, I think, is his general attitude. You will not see him get real high, you will not see him get real low, at least on the surface. And the most impressive thing about Lucas, I feel like this year, is general demeanor with everyone. He is not going to rock the boat, he is going to be supportive, and even with his coach, when his coach misquotes the lyrics to a Beatles song, he waited until everyone cleared out and said, "Coach, I just want to have a word with you about that." And he was right, like I was looking it up. He was spot on, but I think Lucas enjoyed the team. I know, he came over to the pasta party. It was the first time I'd ever hosted a pasta party ever, and so to see Lucas walk in the garage door, I had a smile on my face because I knew he felt like he was part of the team. Lucas Kubasik, come on up. And Brett, very, very quiet young man. I think Brett, I eventually got to talking to his father at one of the meetings about, Brett's hard to read sometimes. He just is so even keel. I'll ask him, "Are you having fun?" And he'll say yes, but I just can't tell sometimes if, someone's just telling me they're having fun for the sake of saying it, or if he actually was. But Brett, I think he enjoyed just being out there and being in the calm of running as much as anything else. I think that he enjoyed running along, whether he was with a pack or all by himself, whether he knew the exact course or it was just kind of ballparking where we were supposed to be running that day. But Brett continued to kind of see some success if he felt like where he was running on the team was where he should have been. My challenge to Brett next year, I hope he considers coming back out, is to know your own race body and to continue pushing yourself. By earning his numerals here. Brett Harsh, come on up. All right, this is your freshman class. Keep this moving. We got our sophomore class. It's 7 freshmen on the team this year, 7 sophomores, and then it tapers down after that. But we will start again, reverse alphabetical order. The first young man, Easton, continued to improve last track season as he came into this cross-country season. I rarely get to see Easton over the summer, even with some of our summer runs. He lives quite a distance away, so I wasn't 100% sure what type of fitness Easton would come into the season with. He came in, was a little banged up. I think a knee or a shin or something was bothering him, which if you have watched Easton over the last year or so, he's gained about 8 inches straight up. So it's pretty safe to say he was having some growing pains. He fought through them, and I think that it truly was impressive to see how he was I think he was kind of going off of what other people were doing most of the season. It's like, yeah, I think I'll run with him today. Okay, I'll move up and run with him today. Okay, I think I'll move up and run with him today. And eventually, he was consistently in that 4, 5, 6 spot. Some meets scoring for us, some meets not. But a very impressive end of his season. Ended up being our number, I believe, 5 at the sectional meet, earning his first varsity letter in cross country. Easton T. I remember going up to Boone at the Smiley meet as he was standing at the concession stand ordering Doritos and a Mountain Dew an hour before his race. And I almost had to jump over the fence and come after him. But he assured me it was for after the race. But the impressive thing about Boone is he knows as he gains fitness how to push himself. I think that it's easy for people to watch Boone and he's always running with a smile on his face. So it's tough to really say, all right, is he pushing himself? Is he pushing himself? The most impressive thing Boone did this year, beyond, I think, growing and really getting to know some of the guys and the guys getting to know him, was he was the only one to run his season fastest time at Wanakee. So I want to give him full credit for that. Continue to push him to do a little bit more out of the season, so that learning curve isn't as steep. Boondocks, come on up, buddy. When I saw Elijah a few times this summer, he went from 0 to 100 when it came to his mileage. And I remember saying to him, man, you got to be careful, you get injured that way. And what was it, after the second meet, or after the first meet, after Milwaukee, he was in a mood. Stress fracture down in his lower leg, just above his ankle. And I'm actually really glad he got injured then, because that gave us enough time to get him healed for what was to come next. Would I have predicted what came next? No. His first race back was Smiley. I put him in the JV race. And it says something when your rivals, a coach from Madison Memorial, came up after watching Elijah win the JV race. He came up to me and said, that kid must have been injured, huh? And I said, yeah, he's only been on a bike the last 3 weeks. So I had no idea what he was going to do. But when another coach recognizes that this kid needs to be on varsity, and this time warranted it as well, then he came up to me going into the Portage meet and said, I think I'm just going to run up there with Lucas. I'm like, wow, sure, why not? Go for it. And there he ran in a fast, I think it was your fastest time of the season there, was a 16:28. So it was just a matter of, all right, let's see where the next limit is. And we kept pushing, He came out and won the conference meet. And the most impressive thing about him winning the conference meet wasn't that he did that, but that he beat a kid that had just beat him 7 days prior, or 8 days prior. And pretty soundly, the Stricker kid from Fort. So to come back mentally strong enough to win that meet on that course really spoke to his, I think, competitiveness. Now that competitiveness got the best out of him when we got to the sectional meet, unfortunately, because MG had a kid shoot off and run maybe a sub 60, 400, I don't know, but he shot off and shouldn't have been at the front of the race. And unfortunately, Elijah got a little pulled out by Jack from South Prairie went after that kid. And so when Elijah came up to me after the race and said, boy, I know exactly where I went wrong, that's all you can ask as a coach. Because that doesn't define his season. What defines his season is how he responds to that particular event, because his season had too many accolades to be disappointed about. Earning his first varsity letter, earning top sophomore, and I'll talk about him a little bit more in a bit, Elijah Kabam. So he told me, like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, I've been saying his name wrong for 3 years. 8th grade, freshman year, and this year. I'm like, dude, why don't you say something? Miles came into the season, I think, with some pretty high hopes. I think last year he was out because his brother kind of convinced him to be out. He really got to know the team. He really enjoyed the team. But I think he expected quite a bit out of himself this year. And he kept having setbacks, minor tweaks, minor injuries here that just wouldn't allow him to really open up to full speed. I really enjoyed, watching his competitiveness at the Portage meet where he ran his season best time of a 20:30. But I think even, to talk about what this team means to Miles. Miles dropped at the finish line at the conference meeting. I don't remember, was it your ankle that was bugging you so bad? There was something, but he ran in complete pain that entire race, but knew that we were trying to win the JV conference meet. And so he was putting it all out there, and I admire that about him. So come on up and get in recognition of your achievement. Thank you. Jack was able to run at the Milwaukee River in bike, the very first race of the season, and then his knee absolutely ballooned. It swelled. There were times when I wasn't sure Jack should even be on a bike, but Jack every day for probably 6 weeks was at practice, at the meeting, and first one on the bike, first one to ice, and every week it was like, all right, you think we're going to be able to? You think we're going to be able to? And what I admire about Jack was he was going to set his schedule based off of him knowing his body. And he did exactly that. By about 2 weeks out from the conference meet, he said, yeah, I think I'd like to be able to run in conference, but I want to try running a half mile this day or running a mile on the track. And then he would always finish with his biking. He was able to do that. And unfortunately for Jack, the conference meet, the course was not such that he was going to see a faster time based off of what he was able to do. But at times he was walking around and he looked like how I felt as an old man. I mean, he had a limp, but he was there every single day. So I appreciated that about Jack, and I hope that he considers coming back and enjoying a full health, a full season of health next year. Jack Brisky, come on up. met Kirby at the all sports meeting. He came up and said, I'm a runner. He had just done, I think, a track meet down in just outside of Orlando when he came at the beginning of the summer. And so I thought, all right, well, that sounds good. And we were having a morning run the next day, I believe, from my place. And I said, well, you're more than welcome to join us. And his mother said, well, how far are you guys going? And I said, well, the guys will go 3, 4, someone will go 6. And she just started laughing and said, nope, he's not going to be able to do that. Are you crazy? And Kirby was there the next day. And Kirby ran probably a little aggressive at first, but he ran with he wanted to stay with the front of the group. And every probably 2 or 3 weeks, I'd hear from Kirby about, well, what's it going to take to get a varsity runner? What's it going to take to He wanted not just to be a part of the team, but to contribute to the team. He's a competitive kid. I think to some degree, it was a learning curve for him just what a 5K was, because there were some times when he'd take it out, like he was running that 400 or that 800 on the track, and it would catch up and bite him. But I never questioned his heart or his finish, and for that, I appreciate Kirby being out for the team here. Come on up, Kirby Colbert. Another sophomore who I think came into the season believing he was a runner, whereas last year as a freshman, I think Connor would tell you, yeah, I'm on the cross-country team. But this year, I felt like he also had a number of injuries with his ankle last year, so it kind of sidelined him a couple of times. But Connor was able to run and train intelligently enough to be able to make it the entire season without injury, unfortunately, until the very last race of the year. But the most impressive race I saw out of him wasn't because his fastest time was up at Portage, which it was his fastest time in 1945, but he raced with conviction up at Portage, and that was the first time I'd seen him race with fire behind his eyes. His challenge in the future is going to be, can he replicate that race in and race out? Unfortunately, I had some wicked back spasms up on at conference meet, and I don't blame him because half the time I was running around looking for the elevator as well. So come on up, Connor. I appreciate it. Good to see you. These are your sophomores. We got enough room up on the stage here. Our junior class. Like I said, we had a few early retirements in the junior class this year. I'll talk a little bit more about Alex when I hand out a different award this evening. But Alex Gardner was our lone junior. He has also earned his varsity letter this year. Not only what I was impressed about, those of you that aren't in track or knew Alex last year during the track season, he was wicked sick for about 3 weeks last track season. Like, if you think he's thin now, holy cats. He had gone on vacation, got a little bit of a bug, and he came back, and it was everything he could do just to finish getting around the track 4 times by the end of the season. So I had absolutely no clue what his fitness was going to be like when he came into the season. I don't see Alex much in the summer. He is a sandwich artist. So his time is really torn between Subway and running. But what was impressive to me this year about Alex's races was Fort Atkinson. I saw this switch, and he decided, just like some of our other guys decided, nope, I'm going to run up there today, and I'm just going to hold on for dear life as long as I can. I think he ended up running as our number 5 or 6 at Fort Atkinson that day, and he turned around and replicated it. He would have, I believe, won the JV conference meet had it not been for one errant flag that just he missed, and I give him all the credit in the world. He turned around, had to go back. That's the nice thing is, as long as you retrace your steps and go around the correct way, you you could finish legally. But his fastest time of the year actually came at the Fort Atkinson meet, which I believe was in 1811. Yeah, that's right, 1811, earning his varsity letter, Junior Alex Gardner.
That's impressive.
And for our senior class, now seniors, you do have the opportunity to take the microphone and say a few words if you choose to. You do not have to if you don't want to. Do not feel pressure to do so. We do have a hook though, and we'll pull you after 3 minutes. No power for your senior. All right? We will be going in alphabetical order from bottom of the alphabet up by last name. Rhett has known cross country his entire life. I took over when Rhett was about 2, I think. He was born I coached for 2 years after he was born, girls swimming. So I don't think he has a lot of memories about girls swimming. But as long as he can remember, he's been going on camping trips with me, with family friends that would come up and go with him. He always spoke about how much he couldn't wait to run cross country in his freshman year. He couldn't wait to come back his sophomore year. Unfortunately, sophomore year was a little wonky with COVID. These guys all dealt with COVID their sophomore year after having a normal year, then having the sophomore year, and then getting back to more normalcy their junior and senior year. Rhett was an alternate on the state qualifying team when they were sophomores, and he continued to just want to get better. It's very, very difficult, I think. I did not have parents that were very athletically focused. My mother was a FIAD teacher, my father was in the military, and so I never experienced having a parent say anything but, "What are you talking about?" when it came to most of the sports that I did. They were very encouraging, but to have not only, a father that was a runner, but also is now your head coach, for 4 years, I think, has been different, to say the least, for Rhett. He's had pressures, whether or not they were put on him, or he put them on himself. And I think that when I'll get there. Don't worry, I'll get there. I'll let him say a few words. Rhett Parker, come on up, bud.
I'll just say thank you to the team. I think the cross country team is the best. I think the cross country team is one of the best team environments you're going to find anywhere. So I'm really thankful that I got to be a part of this team for 4 years. And I was pretty nervous this year. Because all of the upperclassmen friends that I had made had left. And I was entirely wrong in thinking I would make any friends this year, or new friends on the team. This team's really been wonderful this year and now 4 years. So thank you for the team for that. Thank you for my mom for dealing with everything cross country, especially this year. My mother, myself, and all involved with the cross country team, and then thank you to the coaching staff for all the support we get at every meet and setting up home meets, hosting sectionals for 3 years straight.
best time this year came at Portage with a 17:57. His lifetime best was at the conference meet last year with 17:45. All right. Next, senior. I remember when Bryce was a freshman, his older brother was on the team, and I think that really is one of the main reasons he came out, I would say. It's pretty safe to say. There was a really great, every year there's a great group of seniors, I feel. That some of these younger guys, they get a chance to get to know them personally, but then their challenge is to make their senior year, make the incoming young guys feel the same way they felt. And I think Bryce was a big part of that this year. He benefited from seeing not only his brother be one of those great senior classes, but I remember his brother saying, I want you to really focus on Bryce, Coach, because he's got a lot more talent than I do, and I think he's going to be a varsity runner one day. And that came true. But last year, we had a senior on the team that Brycey was our number 9, but the senior said, I think it would mean a lot if Brycey got to run at the conference meet. The senior had gone through some tough times and was willing to give that up for Brycey. But then Bryce turned around, and this year, I think, took that momentum from that conference experience last year and ran with it literally this year. In fact, there was not a meet almost the entire season, I believe, that he wasn't pushing that group of that 6, 7, 8, 9, and it was because of the way he raced it improved the people around him. And so I appreciate that about Bryce. I appreciate the fact that he has learned over the years what his body can and can't do. And I appreciate the fact that he wants to make sure that it's fun for the next crop of kids. So with that, I want to recognize Bryce Morowski with his varsity letter.
I remember freshman year like it was yesterday. I mean, I say that in my speech, but it truly does go by. I think what Regan said, it feels like last year that all of this just unfolded. I mean, it's unbelievable. Last year's banquet, I feel like that was even yesterday. I mean, I say that again in my speech, but it's unbelievable how fast time flies by. It truly does. So I remember freshman year like it was yesterday. I also remember last year's banquet like it was yesterday. Sitting at the desks, listening to the other seniors give their speeches, and thinking about what I wanted to talk about. I didn't think of anything. Not because of laziness or not caring, but because this is the day that I work the most. The day of saying goodbye to something that I've had, Monday through Friday, for the last 4 years. The bus rides to Governor Nelson State Park, the Devil's Lake camping trips, and the weekend. Every person on this team has shaped me into the person and runner I am today. A few of those amazing people are Ferris, Corbin, Alton, Caden, Dylan, Jackson, Matthew, Mason, Chris, and G. All of these people taught me skills that are needed as a human, such as leadership, sacrifice, dedication, confidence, positivity, and collaboration. But there are 2 people that I didn't mention that mean even more to me. 2 of these people have taught me more skills. 2 people have taught me more skills than all of those combined, and emotions that I can't even put into words. First is my brother, Reed Morowski, and Coach Parker. Both of these people have inspired me to run in such different ways. Reed always pushed me to run even when I didn't feel like it. He would always ask me to go on runs with him and drag me along. He knew that deep down I could do something amazing if I put my mind to it. And Coach Parker, you're the person that I've always and will always look up to. From the first day of practice, there wasn't a doubt in my mind that you wouldn't be the best coach in Abilene Jasper. And I've spent the last 4 days trying to put into words on how much you mean to me and how much you've changed me, but I couldn't think of anything.
is someone that is going to, if he's going to do anything, he's going to do it all out. He's going to commit, he's going to research, he's going to network. He found races and times, and I'd get texts from him about, hey, do you think these were legit times? Hey, how far, have you calculated? I do these calculations based off of the course. I compare time. Hey, have you done these calculations yet? I'm like, I'm on my first cup of coffee, Joe, but I just get through my first cup of coffee. Joe put some heavy mileage in this summer, and I think that Joe came into the season with really, really high expectations. Joe doesn't do anything without high expectations on himself. Classroom, track, cross country, swimming. Looking forward to that, aren't you? I mean, Joe was an unbelievable gymnast before he really committed himself full-time to running distance. He put in heavy mileage. He would even come to some of the morning runs just to be present, wouldn't run at them, and then go and do, because he wanted to do hills at Indian Lake, or he wanted to do this type of workout over the summer. I think that some of those pressures that he puts on himself, my challenge to Joe over the years will be, remember to drop your shoulders and enjoy what you're doing too. He loves running. He loves being a part of this team. I want him to love the fact that he has this opportunity and gives this opportunity to other people as a kind of a model. I mean, you watch any run we started, Joe shot off. He'd be at the front of the, he'd be 15, 20 feet in front of everyone. And I'm too old to try and keep up with those guys anymore, so everybody looks like they're far out in front of me. But Joe wanted to be at the front. He wanted to be at the front last year. He wanted to be at the front his sophomore year. And that's what makes Joe a leader on this team. Him always not only pushing himself, but pushing those around him. And so with that, I want to congratulate him on his first team all-conference, but also his top senior award as you calculated his overall finish on the team throughout the season. Congrats, Joe. Come on.
All right, I prepared a rhetorical analysis for the 4 seasons I've been here, but I'll keep it short. So first I want to acknowledge our first-year assistant coach for taking exposure to recording mileage. Thank you to Coach Benson for everything you have done to keep us on track and making things run smoother. I want to say thank you to Coach Smith for everything he's done to help me guide me along the way through my 4 years of running, both in cross-country and track, and for the continual support of Coach Parker for the success of the boys team. Next, I want to thank my teammates, to the teammates 3 years ahead of me in my freshman year, the teammates 3 years behind me in my senior year, and to everyone in between. I cannot thank you enough for everything we've done to make this experience the best it can be. The pasta parties, the camping trips, morning practices, the good and the bad. You've really made this journey worth going on, and I thank you for that. Moving on, I would like to give a special thank you to Coach Parker for being the main reason why I chose to stick with the sport. I could stand here and talk for hours and hours about all the ways Parker has impacted my life from my freshman year until now. Ever since the first day I met him, he's given me endless support and encouragement for putting myself out there and achieving what I thought would be possible. From strategic race plans to smoking your pack of cigarettes, all of Parker's advice, all of his advice is carried forward with me, memories that I'll never forget. I would also like to thank the parents for the continual support, and specifically Ms. Parker for allowing Coach Parker to spend as much time as he does with us and making family sacrifices for his commitments. Finally, I would like to give a special thank you to my parents and sister. Without them, I would have never even thought about the sport of running. They pushed me to try something new and supported me along every step of the way, taking me where I needed to go, getting me what I needed, and attending my meets no matter the distance. I'm so grateful for everything they've done to me to get me where I am today, and none of it would have been possible. As most of you know, I used to do gymnastics before this, and I really didn't get any time to spend with classmates or little bit connections that I do now. So my parents wanted to get me into a sport in high school that I could make these connections and make my way through high school more enjoyable. And do that with cross country. And I'll remember The first, here's the speech. And I'll always remember the first requirement sheet Coach Parker sent out for what we should expect as a beginner. And me looking at my dad in shock, like, 3 miles? One race is 3 miles? Who would have only run that? And now I run like 11 miles for fun. So, as someone who had only run a mile max in one run, let's just say it took some getting used to. I showed up to my first ever morning Parker run, and I remember everyone casually talking about what they were going to go, like 4 miles. Now as someone who has a hard drive and determination to do something, I wasn't about to sell myself short of anything. Fueling a cream cheese bagel, yogurt, and milk for breakfast, it won't be wrong to say that that was the worst first distance run experience ever. Struggling through stomach cramps and navigating my way back, Parker came over and finished out the run with me, making sure I walked when I needed to, made my way around the route, and told me what I should and shouldn't eat before I run. But it was at this moment that I knew this was something I wanted to continue to give a shot, knowing I had the support I did and someone who I could go to with any problem I had. This transitions into another key aspect for my motivation, another person I want to highlight on the team, and that is Bryce. Ever since freshman year, he was always someone that you could go to for a run. He was always willing to run just like Reed was. And I remember one run, specifically from the splash pad. I was struggling with my breathing. It was like one of my first runs. And he taught me a technique for breathing that he made me do each run, made sure I got it down, made sure I succeeded. And that was just one moment that he gave me. Another one being something he told me freshman year leading up to the conference meet. He'd said, "It seems like you have been slacking lately." Now, this comes with the context that I didn't really care about running at all. Gymnastics was my primary focus, and cross country was just a way for me to make friends and socialize with a wide range of people. However, even though I didn't care about running at the time, the statement really hit me hard. It is the driving thought that, no pun intended, runs through my head during my runs. It is the thought that pushes me and forces me to finish through the tough race when I don't want to, go the extra mile, the 0.1 when I don't feel like it, and power through the next workout when I'm too tired. I've carried that with me ever since freshman year, and it's all because of Bryce that I have to thank for calling me out on my lack of motivation, and for making me think about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and for continuing with the sport. So for that, I thank you. And through sophomore year, you know, as I made our state alternate team, I was really thankful for that opportunity, but I really looked up to the people on that state team, and I wanted the opportunity to become the person who the alternates look up to. So transitioning through junior year, I accomplished more than I ever thought possible, working as hard as I did over the summer, winter, and spring. But then as we fell short at the sectional meet for a chance to be the guy that I looked up to as an alternate, I wanted even more coming into this year. So I worked as hard, even harder, set my goals higher, my determination higher. But as we all know, it wasn't what I expected, what I wanted. And as I reflect on my growth throughout the cross-country seasons, the point that I want to pass on to the younger guys is that it's good to set goals, set expectations, want to achieve more. Those are good motivators, but don't be hard on yourself when you fall short. Acknowledging that what went wrong, how you can fix it, and move on. This is something I'm still trying to figure out and I struggle with. But learning it early on with you guys will help you in the future. Cross-country has given me more than I could ever ask for. It's had opportunities, experiences that I'll never forget. It has been the gateway to other sports and clubs. That I've never thought about joining. It has presented future athletic and academic opportunities for college. It gave me friends and coaches I will always be grateful for. And to that, I thank everyone who has made my cross-country journey what it is today. So I can't thank you enough. And thank you for sitting through this speech.
That was impressive. I've never actually had somebody go that far off of a written speech. Yeah. No, that's okay. Thank you. Our final senior. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we got 2 more. Sorry. We got next up. All right. Bodie's a young man that I think when I look back on his 4 years, the thing I admire most about him is wearing his heart on his sleeve. You're never short wondering what he's feeling because he looks it. When he's excited, he lights up a room. When he's down, he's down. When he's emotional, he tells you exactly what he's thinking. And for a high school boy to be able to speak about his emotions, that's very, very impressive. I think as he looks back on his running career, He's had to deal with a number of injuries, even lower leg, mid leg, hamstring, all the way up to he got nailed with a flag at the Portage meet, and it bruised his shoulder pretty significantly for a couple of. It was tough to get through a couple of workouts this year. But Bodie was never short on putting his full effort into what he thought he could do at that moment, what his body would allow him to do at that moment. I admire him for not only what he's able to put into his running, but what he's able to put in for his family. He supports, there's several times when he has to kind of help out, with some family chores or helping out watching his younger brother here and there. But he does so knowing that family is the number one priority. But he's still talking to me about, but I'll run later tonight after my mom gets home from work or something of that nature. To have that type of self-awareness, both socially, but also physically and emotionally, I think is what's been most impressive about Alex Bodie. So with that, I want to thank him and offer him his varsity letter. Alex, come on up.
I didn't write anything, so I'm just going to kind of wing it here. First, I want to actually thank my mom for being so supportive over the years, because I tried a lot of sports and kept quitting, and she was always there for me. So I want to thank her first and foremost, and then the team. I'll try not to get emotional because you guys mean so much. Coming into a freshman year, I did not have many friends. So over the years, as excuse me, as these guys supported me, I never wanted anything more than to support those guys back, because they became more than friends. They kind of became brothers, especially these senior guys. I really want to thank Joe, especially for this year, because at the beginning, man, was I not as fast as I wanted to be. And he talked to me after a practice one day, and he really helped me pick my head up and run the way I wanted to. And I really thank you for that. And then Coach Parker, I've never felt more motivated to run for someone than for Coach Parker, because he believed in me unlike anyone ever has before, and he knew even through injury that somehow he could get me to try, and I gotta thank him so much for that, because I would not have stuck with this sport if it wasn't for him. And for the guys that are coming in who are younger, and girls, I think keep that sense that if you put in the work, even if you're injured, you can do a lot, and you mean a lot to your team, no matter what level you're at. 'Cause, I mean, I've been running at JV, but you mean a lot to your teammates, and I don't think you should ever quit based on where you are in the rankings, because you are a member of your team, and you matter at every stage. So, thank you guys.
Our final senior, Isaiah, has run the gambit of performance, of expectations, of, when I think back to Isaiah's freshman year, it wasn't until about 2 meets before the conference meet, he was running, I don't know, maybe 10th, 9th, some meets 12th, further back for us. And I finally went up to him, I said, Isaiah, you should be running up there. Pointed to a couple of the other guys that were on the team. And lo and behold, the next meet, there he was running along. And the great thing about watching Isaiah when he races, and I saw it just about every meet this year, is if he heard your voice, he would turn and recognize you in a race with a great smile. And that just always made my day when I was watching Isaiah race. He came out his sophomore year, had some unbelievable summer training, finished. He was on the state qualifying team. He was the only guy still here that was on that state qualifying team during the COVID year. he actually finished 30th in the state overall that sophomore year down at Arrowhead during the fall season. He came back his junior year, was again unbelievably fit, had some guys up at the front pushing him constantly, both on our team and around. I think he ended up in the top, what were you, second or third at sectionals, your third his junior year. And then he found a new love, pole vault. And I remember last track season talking to him going to, was it Watertown? We went to Watertown and he was like, hey Parker, I'm gonna clear 10 feet tonight. And I said, I won't. I mean, I'll put a concrete shade on that. And I think he cleared 10 or 10.6 indoor meet. First time out, ended up qualifying for state. And the pole vault, he had grown up around the pole vault, but I wouldn't say he spent much time over at the pole vault. He would dabble his freshman and sophomore year. So he fell in love with pole vault, and he pole vaulted all summer, put on some great strength in his upper body. But I knew from his wry grin the first few times I talked to him in the fall, how you doing? What kind of shape are you in? I'm okay. He didn't believe he was in as good a shape as I think he should have been believing. And so I gave him that space all year. I gave him that space. I said, let's try and do this. Well, I'm kind of feeling this, I'm kind of feeling that. Okay, that's fine. Got to figure that out as you go. But what was most impressive about Isaiah to me this year was it wasn't where he was running on the team, it was how much fun he was having with every single kid on the team. I mean, Isaiah is an unbelievable athlete. Probably will be a world-class spike ball champion one day. I'll be wearing your jerseys. But he could talk, whether he's sitting in the nice stub or sitting in Normatex, he could talk to any kid, any age, like he had known them for years. And so it was really exciting to see whoever he was running with at that particular race, how much he was helping them out during the race, talking to them, which made me feel like he could have been running further up. But he was helping his teammates move up every single race. Helped Wyatt out several times. I'm going to go off with Wyatt. Okay, then it wasn't until the conference meet when we finished 4th overall, first team all conference, he came up to me and said, I'm going to try it in sectionals. And that was the first time that I thought he believed in himself as much as I believed him. Now, sectionals didn't work out the way he wanted to, but what mattered most was he came to it on his own, and he chose his path. And I look forward to whatever path he travels in the future to see where he ends up. Isaiah, come on up and get your letter done.
So last night I was too busy procrastinating my letter for lacrosse to do anything productive, so I'm just going to talk. I gotta say some thank yous. First of all, to my parents, really supportive. I appreciate that so much. And also to Miss Parker for allowing us to borrow Parker for way longer than we should have. But it's a lot of sacrifice, and I really appreciate letting us letting a partner coach us like that. So, what else? I will say, freshman year, I did not enjoy running. Not much at all. Actually, like, my mom would tell me to go for runs on Sundays or Saturdays when we didn't have a meet. I would just sit in the car. Whatever 30 minutes it should have taken. And that's just how it was. And freshman year, Parker was fine with that. And throughout all of my running career, she didn't ask anything more of me than I was wanting to give. You've been such a great mentor, coach, and I couldn't ask for any more. Thank you.
All right, folks, this is your senior class right here. We say what we feel like is the most distinguished for last year. The first one, we'll just bounce back and forth. Okay. First ones I'm going to give out is most improved. This can be measured a lot of different ways in cross country. Yes, you can say, hey, this kid dropped the most time. That's pretty easy. But there is a caveat that the faster you are, the harder it is to run faster. So you can't say a kid dropping from an 18:30 down to a 16:30 isn't any better or worse than a kid going from 25 minutes down to 19 minutes. Those are two totally, you have to look at them totally different. But most improved, I think, impacted not just by time, but by place. Not just by place on our team, but by place in meets. And it really has jump-started some conversations around what's coming up in the future. This year, earning most improved, you did have to have a season under your belt before this. Elijah Ibam.
We might have one more award than you got. It's okay. So most improved for the girls' side is really connected somewhat physically to our most dedicated. And I'll be very honest that you could make a tremendous argument that these awards could be flipped for many reasons. And it was important, I think, for our team to recognize these two people in separate ways. So if they want to trade them later, they can. We'll have to have a rematch, but that's okay. This year's most improved moved from generally being our 9th runner last year to being number 3 for every race she ran in this year. Most times last season she was high 22, low 23 minute range. And this year she was in the 21s for every race except her PR, which she was under 20:55. So again, you'll hear some other comments moving forward, but the reason she's most improved is because she was super dedicated. And so you'll hear that the other way around too. They had some great role models. We had some girls in the senior group last year that knew what it was like to not be afraid to work hard. Sometimes that's hard to do, right? It doesn't seem like it might be, but they were not afraid to work hard and let people know they were working hard. We had great leadership out of that group, and these two benefited from that leadership. And they've carried on, they've stepped into that role now, and they've shown the rest of the team what it means to do the tough stuff when nobody's looking. So this year's most improved is Quinn Aulick. All right, so what we'll do, we're going to jump in here and do this most dedicated. So this person is just as improved because she was dedicated. There's no question she ran more miles this off-season than anyone we had. But it wasn't just the volume of running, it's how she was running. On top of that, she added her own lifting program to go above and beyond to get her where she is now. The work that they put in, that she put in, was realized at the sectional meet. And so if you were there, you can understand what happened. And to dispel the myth, the rumor, a non-fact. We were bound and determined that Wanakee and Madison West were going to be the 2-team qualifiers. They were easily the best 2 teams in that race. And so as the race went on, I'm counting individuals, and at 500 meters to go, the runner from Verona went by Taylor, and I said to her, that's the last qualifying spot. And it was in our mind at that time. And there wasn't anybody on that property that could tell me any different. They'd be lying to me. Okay? The cool part about it was that you saw her physically, emotionally go after that runner. And while she didn't catch her at the end, it didn't matter to me. I would have felt just as awesome for her if she hadn't made it as she did, right? Because you saw the dedication that she had put herself through to get to that moment. Well, West had a crappy day, Middleton ran out of their heads, and so it changed who the individual qualifiers were. And not only was Taylor in, but she was the 4th qualifier and not even the 5th. And so we're awarding her the most dedicated this year. Taylor Booster.
Coach's award to give to, this is kind of great in a lot of ways, but if, are they doing the things that, making choices or saying or helping out, and it's difficult sometimes because these guys are really good humans above everything else. I mean, put the medals, put the trophies aside, they're good kids. And so when going through the Coach's Awards thoughts in my head, the one instance that really stood out above and beyond was kind of the passing of the torch. And that was when Bryce came up to me before the conference meet. He had seen how hard and well Alex had run at Fort and wanted to make sure Alex had an opportunity to run in the varsity race at conference. And I said, and the same thing had happened the year prior for Bryce. G had given him his spot, and I was fine with it at the time because of that situation. I wasn't okay with it this time though. And that's not anything against Alex, because Bryce was on the door of an all-conference bid. And I wanted that for him. And so when I told him that, he accepted it and went after it. Now, it didn't work out the way he wanted it to, but the fact that he was willing to give up that spot and do all of the things that, as some of those guys have mentioned in some of their speeches, really made me feel like Bryce Borowski deserved the Coach's Award. Come on up, Bryce.
So we try to recognize this person, at least on the girls' side, somebody who embodies all the positive, or at least most, the positive qualities of our sport. It means that they're doing the little things, to make our team better. They typically carry a great attitude, and it has zero to do with their athletic ability or achievement. And this was kind of refreshing for me this year. Coach and I talked about this award a lot. Who was worthy and why, and we collectively settled on a person who came to cross country for the first time and is a younger runner, and so to fit in and offer positive effect on our team really stood out. And so this year's Coach's Award goes to Paige Huber.
Most valuable is pretty straightforward in a lot of cases. You can't necessarily go off the fastest time, but I usually base it off of what's your overall average finish for the team. if you had asked me the first 4 meets of the season, it was a lot. And then Elijah came back and had the type of second half that he had. And it actually came down to the last race of the year. And then it came down to decimal places, actually. 1.51 to 1.63 or something like that. I'd have to look somewhere else. But what's impressive about Lucas earning most valuable is not only is he a freshman, but there's only been one other male in high school history to earn 4 MVPs in a single sport. And so the challenge to him is, you've got 3 more years. Let's see what you can keep doing. Because I know there's people chasing you. All right? Lucas Tanner, come on up, bud.
Girls' most valuable this year is maybe pretty obvious. Was just comment a bit about the state meet first. I'm going to slide Taylor in here as well. We went to the meet last Saturday. Tremendous day if you were a spectator. It couldn't have been any better weather. However, for runners, it was moving slightly to the warm side. Not hot by any means, but we watched the girls runners in the first race of the day, and they came by us at the 2 mile, and half of them were just sweating through the face. And it told me that it was more humid than we probably imagined, and we had to be a bit conservative about how we went out. And so we talked about where the 2 should be getting out in the first mile, and then kind of let the race happen as soon as we hit the first downhill, and then at that point, you got to go with what you got. And I thought both girls applied themselves really, really well. Taylor may be a little conservative, little at the first mile, then moved up significantly in mile 2, and then still passed another 6-7 runners in the last mile. Rylan went a whisker faster than maybe we wanted, but not enough to, I don't think, affect her race. And was in a great spot throughout the entirety of the race. And it was, if I remember last I saw you, was about 1,000 meters out going up the back. That's just brutal if you know the course. And ran just relatively the same time she ran last year, and finished a few places back of that, but the field was way better this year, like much deeper than it has been in recent years. So our most valuable, you just hold for a minute here. She led our team all races this year, was number 1, but she's run more sub 20-minute 5Ks now than anybody we've had in school history. Her best time this year was 19:34. That's going to put her at the top of the junior class record for sure. She earned her second first team all-conference award this year and a repeat state qualifier. She will also, along with Taylor, they will receive an academic all-state award that comes from the Coaches Association sometime in January, February. So when that happens, we'll get that announcement as well. Most valuable, Rylan Olberg.
Last team awards we have, I think are most special just because they truly are from the team to these individuals. These aren't necessarily coach appointed. I do hold a small caveat of, if someone is caught, apparently going on runs and smoking cigarettes, I don't always let them be. But that being said, these guys were voted by their teammates. And, we have a small senior class, an even smaller junior class. And so, the vote tabulation came down to where was there going to be a break. And I couldn't see myself needing 6 or 5 captains necessarily. So I did have to just stick with the top 2. I'll mention that what's most impressive about Alex Gardner getting voted as a captain was I think that Alex is an individual that can make a connection with anybody around him. He's just got that type of personality. He's relaxed, he's fun, he works hard, he's going to push himself, but he's not going to step on anyone doing it. And I think that spoke to some of the kids in the younger class. Those first few weeks, Alex was the guy that, anybody could turn to and enjoy the company of Alex Gardner. What was most impressive about Alex is how he continued to grow as a leader throughout the year. I know our team will be in good hands having Alex as the senior class next year because he is not just a good, committed runner, but he's a quality human being as well. The second individual I'll make mention, and I think I'll be able to fight through this a little bit better now, is Rhett. Rhett was voted a co-captain, and what I think I wanted to say earlier and what I wanted to say now is not just the pressures of being a coach's son, but being a senior on a coach's son team, but also being a captain on your coach's father, whatever, team. I will be most proud of Rhett, not by a single time that he runs, but by the fact that he still loves running. And to me, that speaks to what these guys have meant to him. So I want to thank them for voting him and offer both gentlemen their co-captain